Recording in progress.
Be all set now. Ooh, there's someone's Is it good now?
I don't think so. I don't know what's going on with this computer here. Hold on.
Is that fixed now?
I don't know. This usually just. It's like everything's off.
My volume's up, so I.
Fix it. Say something.
Test.
It's still
It's echoey.
echoing.
Did you turn is the microphone off on your computer? Because it seems like you guys might be the ones.
We are definitely the ones,
You're the trouble.
but that's all the way down. Computer audio. I don't know why this is different. Is it still echoing?
Nope. Oh,
Better?
Yeah. No.
spoke too soon.
It says we're not on the audio. Volume is off. Seems like we're still buzzing, doesn't it? There's everything shows is muted.
How about the laptop? Mute the.
Everything's muted on here. There's no volume on
Is
anything.
your laptop muted as well?
Pardon?
Is your laptop muted as well?
Oh.
Even a panelist here. I don't know. The only thing I know to do is exit out and go back in again. Can you do that, Patrick?
Yeah.
Exit out here and come back in.
Well, with apologies, everyone, we're having technical difficulties.
see their audio is still on. There's no way to mute it from here. Detect your microphone. I don't know, you could try. It sounds like there's still a buzz going, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Because they don't have their audio. There's no audio in the other room they're on right now.
We're trying to rejoin the Zoom too.
What did she say?
She's trying to rejoin, is what she said. But we still have the audio, too, obviously.
Is the other computer causing, is the other computer?
It's the same thing we're doing, this is the same issue we were having a couple weeks back. Meeting prior to last.
Oh, that was caused by someone trying to use the,
A different phone line.
It's
Yeah.
the audio in the room is causing the problem that, I don't know what's been changed about it, but.
I've never looked at these plans before.
but it was caused by a fax machine.
Sits
Is that where you're
Yeah,
going?
that was, it was a different, it was.
It was
something.
caused by a fax machine.
I just didn't know if, because we have this extra computer, if that other computer's picking up.
I don't-
This is through the internet, through the Zoom, so, I mean, this was as if I was sitting at my home.
Right, I just heard, I could hear it, so then I didn't
Yeah.
know if that was,
I signed off just in case that's what's interfering. We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
that's a good task. I like it. That's my technology skills right there.
Patrick,
Try
is there a
everything.
fax machine somewhere
I guess it's not.
here that may have been causing this like the last time?
Not on this floor, all the copiers have been removed.
Normally, we're on as a panelist for it.
Yeah.
Right, because if you look at the panelists right now. Like, I bet no one else can hear us remotely.
Oh, do we know anybody online in that group that we could ask?
I'm texting with a few of them.
Oh, thanks.
I'm gonna ask them to be patient. Get the cell tower working in town, get it all set up.
You could ask Tom if he's able to hear us.
Yeah, I'm asking him.
I don't think he can. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't seem
If we
to
don't
matter.
have the recording, then that's harder for the minutes, right? Then we have to
I
think about
think
the
the
minutes.
Zoom will take care of the minutes. The Zoom is a problem because we have our peer reviewer on Zoom.
If they can't hear,
It's
it's still getting recorded on our end.
right, but we need to be able to speak with the peer
Right,
reviewer.
got it.
Although we've now noted that Zoom is a courtesy for this very reason.
You might be able to get them on phone,
Right.
on telephone, speakerphone.
Well, we could see him, and if he called in.
Should we see if our peer reviewer can call in?
I will ask him.
Call in how?
With his cell phone and just be on audio, not Zoom.
On someone else's cell phone in this room?
Yes.
Well, he
Like
could,
calling Patrick's cell phone, maybe. Put him on speaker. We just,
no one online can hear us.
He says that he's not getting sound or a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. What did we do last time?
Last time it
We
was the
had-
fax machine that was
Right.
causing the problem.
It was hooked up to the wrong thing, but nobody's even here, so it shouldn't have got, it should be.
Patrick, hello.
Hi, Tom. It's Patrick Reffett. We're calling in. We're having technical difficulties with our Zoom format tonight, so wondering if you can attend via our phone.
Yes, not a problem at all. I don't have either audio or visual connection at this point, but we'll struggle through.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so
Video's not even on.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually the Hamilton Wenham Zoom. It's never on this camera. It's always on the
Oh, HW cam.
HW Cam's video. And it's on their audio too, so
Matt,
there's something wrong with the HW Cam.
Do you want me to?
oh, there's something wrong with HW Cam
Logging
too?
in now. The password isn't working.
They're not on.
Okay.
We're the only ones on.
I'm gonna go and see if I can get on HW cam. Make sure it's being recorded.
I'm wondering if we should move to the library. Because it seems to be a poltergeist in this building.
I'm not even sure. It's the HW Cam system that's in the room next door. Well, they're not even on at the moment.
Recording in progress.
Can you promote to panelists?
Recording in progress.
Is that your phone? Because you're hearing Tom, I think. I don't think anything changed really. Mario, this is the same problem we had a few weeks ago. So I don't, unless if there's like an IT consultant person in the building to fix this problem, this is like,
We're done.
well, we're not gonna be able to Zoom. We can still have the meeting, we can't Zoom when
We can't Zoom, but is HW Cam?
they're current,
HW cam's on.
they're
Yeah,
on.
right.
Oh, so we
Yeah.
can proceed, because as long as we can get our peer reviewer to call in, our notice
So-
of the meeting is fine.
People can watch it on HW cam, and if they wanna text in info, if you guys know anybody on that list.
Yeah. You guys
I don't know if the,
Able to see on their own to the same.
yeah, can you scroll through that list so we can see who's on that list? Because, so people can see if they know any, the side list of attendees who can't hear us? If you can just scroll down, because we can't see all the names. Perfect.
You could just put a chat up for everybody to watch.
There is a Q&A up for people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, could you want to, can you just tell them to go to HWCam and watch
Can
it?
you put the link for HWCam in case they can say, you know, find it easily on there, please?
I think what they're saying is there's a recording that gets made after this meeting is done, and they can refer back to, I don't know. I'm not even sure anyone can see the meeting or hear the meeting currently, so I don't know what it means.
And there's no ability to comment from that.
But they can't hear us, is the problem.
Right, but can you answer?
I can hear you through
type-
the laptop, and I'm signed on to the Zoom right now.
You can, all right?
I can see you as well, so I think it might be up.
Oh,
and
they
running.
can see in here, they can see in
Okay.
here.
So we're just gonna have to deal with the,
So,
Patrick, I can see the meeting and I can hear via the telephone.
Let's see if we
Yeah,
can
I was
get you
thinking-
transmitting via the Zoom.
Should we
people
go
can-
ahead and try and
people can hear
proceed?
us if they're on, is it?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you. I have the volume up again, but let me check again. You say something?
Should we try and proceed?
yeah, everyone can see and hear, they're all texting me that they can see and hear you.
Great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever happened? Well, now they just,
How do we get rid of the echo?
It might be because you have the cell phone on, that it's echoing into, if he's on, it might be
Right, yeah.
doubling up.
okay, I'm going to try and call the January 9th, 2024 meeting of the Hamilton Planning Board to order. Our first order of business, as usual, is to take roll. So when I call your name, would you please indicate that you're present? Pat Norton,
Present?
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, present.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill
Speaking.
Wheaton, present.
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, present.
Beth Herr,
Present.
Matt Hamel,
Present.
and Marnie Crouch, present. Our first order of business is the public hearing on the Hamilton Wenham Regional High School application for the athletic fields. And I want to respond to some of the emails that the planning board has received in the last couple of days before we proceed with Gale Associates' presentation. And I think some of the emails reflect a misunderstanding about the role of the planning board. Certainly, the planning board is not intending to be disrespectful of the school district, nor is it in any way, shape, or form trying to delay this project by being uninformed about it. In the first place, I want to note that the vote to fund the athletic campus redevelopment is not the equivalent of approval of the site plan review application or the stormwater management permit application. These are applications that were recently filed by the school district with the planning board. The planning board is statutorily bound to follow Hamilton zoning bylaw and its general bylaw in reviewing these applications. This work takes time, particularly as the board meets just twice a month and has several important and ongoing initiatives to consider in addition to this project. These include the overlay district for the Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary property, approval of a master plan, and the drafting of new stormwater management regulations for the recently revised stormwater management bylaw. Moreover, neither a site plan review application nor a stormwater management permit application has ever been filed before the planning board during my tenure. So I know some people thought that this project had been before the planning board before. It has not. Perhaps there's confusion among the public between the role of the Conservation Commission, which reviewed the project and issued its order of conditions on April 28th, 2023, and the role of the planning board. But having said that, I want to go through the timeline of this project before the planning board. So the funding for the athletic fields project was approved at town meeting on April 1st, 2023. And as I noted above, the approval of the funding is not the equivalent of site plan review, nor is it the equivalent of the issuance of a stormwater management permit. Gale Associates filed its site plan review and its stormwater management permit application on November 16th, 2023. A public hearing is required for site plan review pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, and that section of Massachusetts law provides that there must be at least 14 days' notice in a publication of general circulation in a city or town once for, in each of 2 consecutive weeks. So that notice period has to be factored in to our equation here. In addition, the complexity of this project, its location near residential dwellings and its location near wetlands in the Miles River, requires a civil engineer to peer review the submissions of Gale Associates. The engineering associated with this project is outside the realm of expertise of members of the public and the planning board. The funding for the peer reviewer, Thomas Houston of Professional Service Corporation, PC, was not processed until December 20th, 23, after the December 19th meeting of the planning board. Mr. Houston filed his report with respect to site plan review only on January 8th, 2024, and noted 44 items in the site plan review application that require correction or clarification, and the planning board is awaiting his review of the stormwater management permit application. So I want to stress that any delays with respect to approval under our zoning bylaw and the stormwater management bylaw have not been caused by the planning board. And in this regard, I note there were 7.5 months between the approval of the funding of this project and the filing of the applications on November 16th, 2023. So with that said, I invite Kathleen Horvelt to make her presentation to the planning board about this project, with a particular focus on the site plan review, because that's the subject of Mr. Houston's peer review at this point.
Okay. What I'd just like to note is the reason we hadn't filed within 7 months is because we had to do the final design for the
Right, and I
project.
understand that. I
Just
mean, so-
just a FYI, it wasn't like we weren't doing anything, but.
Well, of course,
so-
what I want people to understand is funding and the ultimate finalization of the design of this project takes time. It's not
Right.
something that can be turned around in a short order. It's a very complex project. These are the short versions of the maps for this project, but this is the information that that has been produced by Gale Associates. And you can see from this information that it's very complex and it takes time to review it. And these drawings need to be peer reviewed because they are, they reflect how the wetlands and the Miles River will be protected. And of course, a civil engineer has to review them.
No, thank you. Thank you,
welcome.
Madam Chair and the board and public, everyone here. I was just going to do a quick review of the project, just so everyone knows kind of the history and where we've gotten to today and our plans of moving this forward and hopefully getting approval through the planning board. Kyle, can we get permission to share?
Yeah, can you give us a...
Thank you.
Sorry, what name am I looking for here?
Kathy Herbal.
One more. There you go.
You should be able to.
Nothing yet. Should I get out and in or something?
person.
Yeah. Did you get that one?
Yeah.
You declined.
Fine, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Try again.
Oh, yeah, why not?
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Go ahead. There we go.
Okay.
It's a little slow.
It's fine. Okay. All right. Again, thank you, everyone. My name's Kathy Hervel. I'm with Gale Associates. I'm the project manager on the project. I have with me tonight Kyle Rowan, who's also our senior designer, we both have had the opportunity to review the peer review comments and have already started our response to comment letter to hit on those points. But with that, I'd just like a next slide, please, Kyle. Just a quick review of the project, how we got here today. Way back when we did a town-wide master plan, which showed deficiencies in fields not only at the high school but across the town. Then back in 2015, we actually did a master plan that focused on the high school and the fields there, their conditions, and I'll touch base on that. I'll hit bit on existing conditions, what we're dealing with, the project design, and then hit a little bit on the synthetic turf, the athletic lighting, and kind of what we hope are our next steps and questions. Next slide, please. So as you may be aware, there's basically 5 or 6 fields at the high school. We're starting, all of them are grass. You got the softball field up in the up at the top of the sheet. North, I believe, is up, and we have the field that in our track and field, the stadium field, and then we have the 90-foot baseball diamond, as well as 3 so-called grass practice / viable fields. Next slide, please. So what the master plan basically did back when was tell us, and this was a couple years ago, that the high school, with their current uses of their sports, when we take an evaluation of, boys sports, girls, freshman, JV, varsity, and all the various sports, soccer, lacrosse, and so on, we're tallied up how many uses the fields have, and based on our evaluation, it was determined that that we were short 2 multi-purpose fields, but also that we had 3 out of the 6 fields were overused and compacted. Next slide. So the existing conditions, yes, as you can see, there are wetlands pretty much surrounding the whole area. That's the yellow and red lines. Those are the wetland flagging is the white. The yellow is the 50, and then we have the 100-foot buffer zones. As we had mentioned before, we have presented these plans to the Conservation Commission and went through a fairly lengthy review process with them and received approval in April of last year, 2023. Just to mention also, as you can kind of see the brownness and such, the majority of these fields, because of the overuse and, with the athletic programs, they've been over-compacted, they have poor drainage, and they just need more space. Next slide. This is just a rendering of the proposed project, basically consisting of synthetic turf for the softball, the track and field with a reconstructed track, tennis courts, as well as the baseball and multi-purpose. I'm just quickly going to hit on each of these areas, just so you know our thought process. Again, we're proposing synthetic turf at the stadium field, along with a 400-meter track. Keep in mind that the track radius was originally, or currently is 106. The radius is those, what we refer to as the D areas on the end. As part of our design was to increase that radius so that we get bigger play area, as well as more safety runouts for athletes so that they don't go right off the edge of the field and onto the track. We've improved with all the turf fields. We have an elaborate under-drain system to promote infiltration and such of stormwater. We've provided site access, and I know some of the comments we will clarify with Mr. Houston on ADA access to verify or provide him with a little more detail on those areas. We have athletic lighting. We've proposed grandstands as well as portable visitors bleachers. Again, the grandstands will be designed with adequate ramps and such, and actually they have built-in areas for wheelchairs and such. It's standard, and adequate fencing for security and such as well. The baseball and multi-purpose field, again, we have athletic lighting, the whole new improved drainage system. This gets a little repetitive, but the athletic lighting, portable bleachers, we'll be putting in new dugouts for the facility, a pitching and batting tunnel, and again, adequate fencing for security and such to control the facility. The softball field is proposed as synthetic turf. Again, the under drain system, which I'll show a little detail in a little bit. Lighting, again, at the softball field, dugouts, portable bleachers for fans, pitching and batting tunnel, and again, site fencing for security and access. And this is the proposed tennis courts, which will also include pickleball. They'll be striped accordingly. We'll be improving the drainage in this area as well with some under drains under the tennis courts. It's not quite the same drainage as the synthetic turf. We plan to provide ADA access, again, portable bleachers, and adequate fencing. And note that all these facilities are being built in accordance with MIAA and the National Federation of High School Fields. We also have a proposed amenities building that we've been advancing the design, which is our programming for that was a little bit behind our site plan, but we wanted to get it in front of the board, which is why we'll be adding those utilities here shortly. We've been working with an architect. The amenities building is approximately 1,650 square feet, and what it's going to provide is an entryway right through the middle to the field, to the athletic complex. On the left side, we'll have a concession facility, some storage closets, utilities, with the team room on the to the right of that building, and then the building on the right includes a ticket booth there, kind of that little jut out in the middle, and then restrooms for the facility. So why synthetic turf? I know everybody has their opinions, but you know, the biggest issue is the number of athletes and the amount of uses at these natural grass fields, and they just can't keep up with the programs that these facilities have. And the synthetic turf will allow these grass fields, the other fields, to be rested so that they can be maintained and brought to a higher level. You do, with a synthetic turf field, you do increase your play amount of time. And then if you add lights, it makes it gives you even more availability for fields and such. There's lower maintenance associated with synthetic turf, and basically about a third of what you would pay for a well-maintained grass field. Obviously, they look green. All-weather availability, which is big, not those cancellations when you have a field, flooded during rain events. And again, the permanent markings and the lines for the field, again, could reduce costs because they're in place and stay. It enhances player safety. A well-maintained grass field obviously is what everyone would love to play on, but unfortunately, with budgets that the districts have and a lot of the schools have, it's hard to maintain them to a level that the safety doesn't become an issue. You have clumps of grass, you get low spots, the plumbarity tends to suffer. pay-to-play options that the community for outside uses, that they may have the opportunity to charge rent for the use of the fields from outside programs. And then the biggest thing as well is the fields are available, as soon as they're installed. Grass fields, whether it's sodded or seeded, would have to at least wait a planting season before it could be used, and sometimes seeding, depending on the soil conditions, could be even longer than that. So this is just a typical section of the synthetic turf field. Starting at the top is the fibers. That's the grass type that we've talked about, that you see out there. Infill goes into those grass fibers. It's usually about, usually the infill blades are about 2 inches tall, and infill will go anywhere from 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches within the grass. What the infill does is provide the cushioning for play, which also helps hold up those the blades to provide that cushion. With an alternate infill, you're required to have a shock pad. A shock pad is just like an extra safety layer that assists with injuries such as concussions and such. The turf backing is just what that's the stitching of the grass, the fiber blades. Then the next thing is what we call the level course, the stone level course. Obviously, that allows us to level the surface so that the field goes in at the grades as required. And below that all is an 8 to 10 inch stone base, which provides voids and such for water. So as rain falls in onto the field, it can drain, and it gives it a space for that water to go as it infiltrates into the ground. And then the under drain system, we have an elaborate. Most of the fields we have what we call a collector pipe that goes around basically the exterior of the fields. And then there's what we call flat panel drains that tie into that, just to help to alleviate water from the area. Next slide. So this is just a cross-section of what we've kind of talked about. Basically the same thing. The fields are designed at a half a slope. And again, the whole intent is to promote infiltration and to get the water off the fields as soon as possible. Next thing I just wanted to hit on, I know at the last meeting some questions were brought up regarding the lighting, what they look like and such. This is just an example of a field that we've done at the Wheeler School. The lighting is poles usually range, for this project, the poles are going to range 60 feet in the softball area, and we have like 2 90-foot poles that sit basically in the center of the athletic complex to kind of catch the light for the stadium as well as the baseball field. As you can see, looking at the picture, kind of the shielding on the lighting fixture, which helps alleviate glare and such. The lighting technology for athletic lighting has come a long way. Next slide, please, Kyle. At one time, the lights for fields used to be very low, and they would shine across the fields, but unfortunately, they also would shine across into possibly neighbors' windows or backyards and such. Now that they have found, that's the pole height, increasing the pole height, providing the shielding, really reduces that, what we call the light spill, away from the adjacent properties. So I've just included a couple pictures just to kind of show you how it drops off. Next one, Kyle. This one can just kind of give you a sense of how quickly it gets dark away from the fields, the softball. This is a softball field we had done. And I know one of the comments was an updated illumination plan, which showed the whole facility, which I've included in this, and we will submit it as our response to comments, where you can basically, the red is basically 0-foot candles. We're required to design the lighting for the fields at various foot candles, which is what to meet the safety requirements and the lighting requirements. So just to let you know that we have looked at that, and have looked at the whole site. And just the next steps, hopefully we can get through the permitting with the planning board successfully. The Conservation Commission, as I said, we've gotten a couple of approvals through them. Our anticipated construction timeline, we're hoping to bid in February and start construction as early as we can get the fields March or so in this year and finish by the end of the year. And what like I said, regarding the review process and such, we have the comment letter. We got it yesterday. We'll be putting together our response to comment in time for the next meeting, so that we'll have any concerns. I guess, Tom, Mr. Houston, if you have questions, I guess what our usual process is, we address the comments, and if your peer reviewer is satisfied with them, then the comment drops off, but we'll continue through the hearings if there's items that aren't quickly addressed. But a lot of these comments were related to adding some notes to the drawings, clarifying some of the setbacks, things along those lines, which we will definitely be able to do. So, and with that, open it to questions or the board.
Well, I think, first off, if Mr. Houston wants to make any comments at this point, is he available to do so?
I am, Madam Chair. What I thought might be productive, as opposed to just making comments on the presentation, I thought when it's appropriate, I might go over the overall report and sort of touch on the highlights. But I'm pleased to see that Gale Associates is in the process of responding to our comments, and I think the presentation this evening has, to some extent, answered some of the concerns that we have.
Well, if you wanted to go over your concerns in whatever format you deem appropriate, I think it would be important for the planning board to hear it, but more importantly, the public.
Fine. Could I get screen share, please?
Should be able to.
You should have rights to share, Tom.
Hopefully you're seeing a highlighted version of our report.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay, well, we've highlighted the highlights here, so let me try to just go through the report quickly. The first segment, we evaluated in some detail zoning, because the zoning for Dover Amendment type uses is a little bit different than most projects, which I'm sure the board deals with. So the project site is located in the R-1 B single residential district. In our opinion, the athletic campus improvements should be evaluated as a modification of the site plan for the overall facility. The school complex is a so-called Dover Amendment use and is governed by the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 3, and there are comparable provisions in the Hamilton zoning bylaw. And essentially what this does, it sort of limits the scope of what is normally done in a site plan review. So the overall complex is a Dover Amendment use. And because the athletic improvements are a component of the existing principal use, the athletic campus improvements are themselves a Dover Amendment use. The athletic campus improvements are use permitted by right in the R-1B district and overall conform with the bylaw. The athletic campus improvements may be subject to reasonable regulations concerning the bulk and height of structures and such things as determining yard sizes, setbacks, etc. The athletic campus contains numerous structures, things like backstops, batting cages, etc. In our opinion, the bulk and height of these structures as proposed, we consider them to be reasonable and not impactful, and thus further regulation of bulk and height is, in our opinion, not required, although the board has the authority to regulate these elements. There is only one building proposed as part of the athletic campus improvements. That's the amenities building. The building complies with the setbacks and other dimensional requirements. The building height complies with the requirements of the bylaws. So again, as the board has authority to regulate these elements, we don't think that further regulation is required. The athletic campus improvements are subject to the provisions of Section 10.7 of the bylaw, site plan review for educational uses. And under this section, the scope of the site plan review is limited to two inquiries. First, whether the use qualifies for protection under the Dover Amendment provisions, and secondly, what reasonable regulations concerning bulk and height of structures, yards, lot area, setbacks, open space, parking, and building coverage requirements, if any, should be imposed on the use. So again, in our opinion, the facility, because it's a publicly owned educational facility, clearly qualifies for the MGL Chapter 48, Section 3 protections, and the athletic campus improvements comply already with the yard sizes, the lot area, the setbacks, and the building coverage requirements of the bylaw. And therefore, in our opinion, the fact that they comply negates the need for future modification of those elements. There is a section under this Section 10.7 that deals with the required content of the site plan review application. And there are some shortfalls here. And I think there are three things that can be done. The information can be provided, the applicant can seek relief, but being as there are no particular provisions for waiver of these requirements in the bylaw, the only mechanism of release is in the form of a variance, which means you'd have to go to the Board of Appeals. There are some requirements here, however, that simply don't apply to the project, and for those, I think the planning board could reasonably reach a determination that these submittal requirements are not required. So I can touch on just a few of these things. The first is that the drawings need to be signed and sealed by the engineer of record and the surveyor of record. They're not now, but this is a very common practice. Most engineers don't sign and seal the drawings until the board has raised whatever concerns and until the peer review process is concluded. So at some point before approval, the drawings will be signed and sealed. There's a couple of requirements here to show the bearings and distances of lot lines and show the overall buildings on the site and the building areas. Well, the survey that was done for the athletic facilities is really just a sort of topographic and physical features survey that was necessary to design the facilities. But there is a requirement to submit property information. I am presuming that at some point previously, there was a complete boundary and property survey of this property, and that those prior surveys could be submitted to satisfy these requirements. So moving on to utilities, there is an amenities building, and as Gale Associates has indicated, it's sort of in a state of evolving in the design. So we did ask that the utilities that serve that building be shown. We asked for a complete photometric plan. Tonight's presentation indicates that that has been completed at this point. Information on dark skies principles. Again, the renderings shown tonight do indicate for the first time that the light fixtures do appear to be dark skies compatible, meaning there's no upward projection of light. We asked to specify the fixture mounting heights. That was addressed in tonight's presentation. We asked for a possible mitigation which minimizes the visibility of the lighting fixtures and point sources of light from adjacent residences. Access and parking. Comments 18 and 19. It's our belief that it is desirable in case of an injury on the field or in case of any other type of emergency. We believe it's important that the emergency vehicle that would respond be able to access each of the fields in a single motion in and out. In other words, it doesn't have to maneuver or jockey back and forth to get on the field. So we've asked that the pavements approaching the gates and or moving the gates, whatever is necessary to allow each one of the fields to be accessed by an emergency vehicle with just a single movement inbound and a single movement exiting. We asked in comment 20 to provide bicycle racks at each facility. We always encourage multimodal access to a site. According to the zoning bylaw, assuming that this is termed a place of public assembly, the bylaw requires one parking space for each 3 seats. So there would be a requirement for the new facilities, excluding the portable bleachers, but the permanent bleachers would give rise to a requirement for 336 parking spaces. So we have asked that there be a count taken of the occupancy of the parking spaces by the school use at the time when the athletic facilities would be in full use. And we want to make sure that there's enough parking on the overall site to accommodate both the school use and the 336 parking spaces that could be occupied for a major athletic event. In terms of accessibility, we questioned whether there was accommodation in the bleachers for persons with limited mobility and making sure that all of the bleachers are accessible by an accessible route. Tonight's presentation indicates that is the case. So we'll look forward to receipt of the detailed information on that. In terms of public safety, we like to see communication with both the Fire Department Emergency Services and with the Police Department to make sure any of their concerns are satisfied by the design of the athletic facilities. We've asked for a few construction notes to be added. One thing that I thought appropriate was to place some limitations on the work hours of construction from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays with no work on Sundays and legal holidays. I did check the bylaws of the town. I didn't see anything there that specifically regulated work hours of construction, so I think that might be an appropriate condition of approval. We recommend marking the limit of work with high visibility temporary fencing that prevents damage to vegetation, other things that are just beyond the limit of work. Due to the proximity of wetlands, we recommend that dust control be limited to the application of mist using portable water only. We recommend that there be a designated on-site refueling area for construction equipment with a paved surface and berm to contain any inadvertent fuel spill. And the final construction issue is a plan note stating that they will sweep Bay Road in proximity to the site during earth or materials transport. And that sweeping should occur whenever sediment deposits are visible on the pavement. We touched on the issue of traffic, and fundamentally the key concern of traffic typically is peak hour traffic volumes. I would anticipate that the peak hour traffic volumes that would occur when major athletic events are underway, they're probably not going to change that much. The number and the type of fields are pretty much the same, with the exception of the addition of the tennis courts. But there may be a slight gain because there's more seating, but fundamentally I see the peak hour traffic volumes not changing that much. So that concludes our comments on traffic. Construction details are in fact details, so I don't think we need to go through those. So I've highlighted the highlights here, and I hope that's helpful in understanding the thrust of our report here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Houston. Did you want to respond at all to that?
Yeah, a couple things I just wanted to note. Like I said, we are working on some of the comments. I guess the first one is you were correct with the professional engineer signing. We did sign, I think they did sign the first page, but we didn't sign the whole set. And like I said, as you had said, until we know it's a final set, it will be sealed. Regarding the bearings and distances, we do have a historic survey for the school that we will provide. And part of that, I know a lot of the other things kind of jumped around. I guess the other thing I'd like to chat about a little bit is the parking requirements. The school currently has 357 parking spaces. It's our understanding that the school does not permit athletic facilities or athletic events to occur when school is in session. So we don't anticipate an overlap in the use of the parking or a limited overlap. So it's going to be, what we would be requesting is that that be acceptable. I know during graduation and the homecoming game, the Thanksgiving game, they do have a special program where they have police, come in and help deal with traffic and such, and that would also, continue as we go. But again, as you had noted, we don't envision a large increase in the traffic to what we see today out at the fields. It's the same teams and such, and the number of kids going. But we will try to incorporate some drop-off areas, things along those lines. I know you had mentioned with the emergency access, I did want to mention that there will be a defibrillator in the new amenities building that the school's committed to do. So there'll be a spot for that as well, but we will revisit those entryways and gates to make that access a little bit easier. We do have gates now for emergency access, but we'll try to streamline the turning motions and such. We will work with the school to get the approval from the fire departments and such, and we'll add your construction notes. They seem fine. The one comment I didn't know, I know you talked about work hours between 5 and 7. I didn't know if pending the project and knowing when they do put turf in and such, they do work late at night, or they can't. It's very quiet. It's only a few guys sewing and putting the stitching in. But sometimes it would, obviously, we'd notify the town and ask for permission, but just didn't know if you would consider that, just if the project's starting, more for scheduling purposes, if we could, with notification to the town, perhaps permit that. But it wouldn't be, none of the initial excavation, none of that would be occurring, on the weekends.
Yeah, our thought was to have that addressed as a condition of approval. So
Okay.
certainly if there are specific exceptions that are necessary, that's not unusual. If you have a site with big concrete pours, they do it 24 hours and that type of thing. So I think the condition of approval could be tailored to reflect the specific site construction requirements. I don't see that being a problem.
Thank you. All right, at this point, like I said, we plan to address all of these comments, provide a response for all of them, make sure Mr. Houston's satisfied with those responses, make any revisions to the drawings, and have a resubmittal package in.
Right.
So.
Did any planning board members have any questions or comments?
I have a question for Mr. Houston. For the sake of the abutters, would there be any value in looking at or discussing the PA system?
I think that's a point well taken. Something we probably should have included in our report. So.
If I could just piggyback on what Jonathan just mentioned, and this I'll address to you, Mr. Houston, as well. In terms of noise, I noticed on one of the slides that there will be pickleball at the tennis courts, and I'm just not sure if that's been evaluated in terms of setbacks and any industry standards with respect to noise from those courts. And you might be able to answer that too, ma'am.
Yeah, we have not looked at that, but what we can do is, they do have sound barriers now that hang on the fences that we can consider and propose something to the client, particularly on the side that they're closest to.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I have a question. This is for Mr. Houston. In terms of the lighting, you commented that cutoff would be desirable. We do have the foot candle reading along the perimeter or the zero line anyway around the property. These poles will be 90 feet around, say around home plate on the Major League field and around the multi-use field.
I can show you which pole. I don't know if the board, if you want to do it on a board, or if we can, well, I don't want to keep sharing and lose Mr. Houston, but we can show you. Basically, the two 90-footers, one sits here.
Yeah.
And one sits back here.
Correct.
The other ones, the rest of these on these two fields are 80 feet.
80,
Kind of standard. And then these, they have a 60-foot, and then the other couple are 70 foot.
While you're holding that, can you tell us a little bit about the color of the light? You said it's LED, but what is the color range? What's 5,000 K or 4,000?
I don't know the color.
Well, it's not yellow, is it? I mean, it's a white light.
It's a white light.
Okay. And the other issue around lighting, again, cutoff is one thing, but the glare is another. All those lights on at the same time, if that happens at any occasion, I mean, and this is a question for Mr. Houston, do you have any concern of the glare coming off the site to the abutters? There are quite a few abutters on that side of the property. In other words, you may get zero on the ground at the perimeter, at the property line, but actually the glare coming off is another matter. Is that something that would concern you on this?
It does, and the submittal that we reviewed really didn't have any information on lighting except the one photometric plan,
Yeah.
which just indicated where the foot candles went to zero. And I can note that's not on the property line. It extends onto the adjacent residential properties.
Yeah.
But I think the foot candle overlap onto the property was less concerning to me than the potential that point sources of light
Yeah.
would be continuously visible from the adjacent residences. The lighting fixtures that were shown tonight for the first time do project downward, but I'm sure that you can tell from the adjacent properties
Yeah.
when the lights are on or off. That's
So there should
pretty
be,
much
there should be a shield installed then on a light fixture itself too, so you cannot see it beyond the property line. Is that right?
Yeah, that would be our recommendation, that no point source of light be visible from the adjacent properties. And we have not seen to date a detail of those fixtures.
Okay. Just one other question, this is for Gale Associates. Just to get a little reference, the fields that are there now, they're irrigated, are they?
Yes.
Is there a drainage system underneath the ground like you're proposing for? So there's no drainage system there now?
No, which is
It
which part of the problem, why they
That is the
get wet
problem.
and, well,
Exactly.
you know, it gets over compacted, then it can't drain either, so.
Exactly.
yeah.
I can understand that. And that's, so that would never work unless you had an artificial surface, I guess, because of the use.
Correct.
But, so it's kind of hard to compare two fields, I would think, then, in terms of, I mean, was any kind of life cycle cost analysis done on this turf versus natural surface? Just as a reference.
There has been, actually, Kyle, if you go to, I think there's a life, at the end of our presentation, there's a life cycle analysis. It may not be specifically to this project, it's going to be close, but there we go. So this was just hitting on the maintenance difference between a turf field and a natural grass field, well-maintained natural grass field. And then, whoops, next one, Kyle, please. And this is just course of action. This is construction of a new natural grass field. It just gives you an idea at the cost versus the loss. I don't have it right in front of me, so we went through, but every 4 years you have an additional 20,000 associated with the grass field over the turf field per se. And then this is the field, the synthetic turf field. You know, obviously the surfacing, the cost is closer to 850,000 with your alternate infills, which is less now. But no loss in use, your yearly maintenance, and then also capacity, the carpet of the 13 years. So basically the cost, the life, if keep going, Kyle, there's like some tables that kind of show the initial investment and then how you go through where the natural grass field after 12 years and the cost versus, next slide, the turf, which we can provide this. Like I said, this is only one field, so we haven't looked at everything, but it just shows, yes, you have an initial cost more up front, but then over the, because you get the longevity, it spans out to the 12-plus years.
Could I ask you about the disposal of the artificial turf after its life expectancy has expired? Because it's my understanding that there are not many places where the synthetic turf can be disposed.
Actually, they are growing, they are building, there's actually one being built in New York, but yes, you're correct, that's always been a concern, what happens to the turf afterwards. And there's several companies, Shaw actually takes their turf back and then reproduces it, they remake turf out of it. Some of the companies take it back and make it into like deck track, like decking, or what you might see in a bench, the plastic type benching materials. So the recycling has is really becoming a push. In fact, I was at the Synthetic Turf Council meeting, and one of the priorities is, how do we get these things recycled? And a lot of the companies are, stepping up, and they are building facilities. Like I said, I know there's a new one in New York that's going on, but we could provide more information on that.
Right, because I think it's important for the taxpayers to understand that at the end of the useful life of this synthetic turf, which is my understanding, it could be as short as 8 to 10 years, assuming that the use of synthetic turf is legal in Massachusetts, which I know there's a Senate bill that has been reported to committee indicating that there should be a ban on the use of synthetic turf, that there would have to be a replacement either of the natural grass or synthetic turf. And of course, that would be a significant expense. So we're spending $15 million here in 2024, and in possibly 10 years, in 2034, how much money will the town be looking at to remove the artificial turf and do something else? I mean, that's going to be another very, very significant cost.
Yeah, keep in mind that the underdrain system that we put in does stay in through the life of the field. And if ever it were to go back to grass, that system can be reused with grass. We'd have to modify it some, but that system would help a grass field drain as well. In fact, we have grass field designs where we do very similar underdrain systems in areas where it's wet, and to people who haven't done turf fields but have a grass field. What we recommended very similar drainage systems to get the water off those fields. So.
Any further questions?
Just one last question on the considering the construction management. I didn't notice on the drawings, and maybe you can correct me here, was there a contract limit line, for example? You're going to go in and strip out the grass, you'll strip out the irrigation system and other things.
If you look at the demo plan, there's a line that goes around the whole outside that shows the limit of construction.
Okay, just to be sure they don't go on to adjacent properties or
Correct,
whatever.
correct,
Because that's a lot of work that gets done in there.
We'll require them to mark
Great
all
site.
that out and such before they start. They'll know all that. We'll review all the wetland limits, all of that, where they can or can't go, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any more questions from board members?
Just a quick one for me. It's just wondering whether or not this project has any sustainability goals or objectives that are being considered. They might apply either to construction or the long-term use and operation of the fields.
As far as construction goes, some sustainability is we're going to reuse the asphalt from the existing track. We'll reclaim that. We dig it up, grind it, just like you do a paved road where they save the asphalt. Sustainability, the infiltration of the water in the field. We're not watering the field, so we're conserving water. So that's sustainability. During construction, the equipment will be required to use special mufflers and such. We require all those standards as part of our construction equipment that's used. As far as the aftermath, obviously we have LED lighting, which is sustainable, and we're not using fertilizers and things like that like you would on a grass field. So that's about where we're at.
We'll have some opportunities hopefully to evaluate with the architects on the structure you're adding. I know it's currently in design, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the bathrooms and other elements that are in that facility.
Yep.
Hopefully there's some things to consider, and maybe the project team may also consider, there'll be a unique opportunity at the high school to engage with some of the students in the project, and maybe some project-based learning for aspiring architects, engineers, and the like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can benefit from a project like this going on in the backyard, and might be some interesting design cases to apply to the classroom.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm going to really just announce that in the interest of efficiency, I'm going to end the hearing with respect to the athletic facilities. And my goal is to get all the information from Gale Associates and Mr. Houston on the table, and then devote a meeting just to public input. So I want everyone to know that I'm not trying to curtail anybody's ability to speak to the planning board, but given the number of emails that we received urging us to act expeditiously, I think that if we have one session that's really devoted just to public input, it will be the most efficient way of handling things. And at that time, we should have a final site plan review information from Gale Associates, and we will have a good understanding of how the stormwater management system will function. So if there.
Marty, you want to consider maybe the people who've taken the time to attend in person this evening, and letting those folks comment,
We have
or?
a lot of other things on our agenda, Pat, and I did consult about this being appropriate with respect to public input, and I think it's the most efficient thing to do. And I do want to move on to the other 3 items on our agenda, if that's possible. We have less than an hour to cover several other topics. So please write down your questions, like, any questions you have for Gale Associates, for Mr. Houston, or the planning board. We will address them all, and hopefully we can do it in a very logical and systematic way, and it will help us get to a decision quickly. And I certainly know that, perhaps the abutters have concerns. We've received a lot of information from the public, and we'll get to it in good time. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is board discussion of the rezoning of the business district and adjacent town-owned properties.
Do you have to take a vote to continue the hearing?
There's a hearing?
I think,
For the.
Yeah, you
I
should-
think we do.
should
Thank
do
you
that.
for that.
Continue it? Postpone it or continue it?
We
Continue.
need to continue it, so I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing on the application for the site plan review and the stormwater management permit filed by the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District.
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second?
When I call your name, would you please indicate that you assent? Pat Norton,
Pat Norton, aye.
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye.
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Beth Hurd,
Aye.
and Marty Crouch, aye. So thank you, Ms. Herbal, for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Houston, for the information that you provided, and we'll continue this conversation.
So what does it look like?
Thank you.
Wise, like, when will we be talking about this again? Do you know?
At our
Like,
next meeting.
which is next week?
Mr. Houston, are you still there?
Yes, yes.
Will you have your peer review for the stormwater management in time for our next meeting?
Yes, Patrick indicated that would be on the 23rd,
Yes.
and that is our intent to have our review of stormwater before that. So that can be discussed on the 23rd.
Great.
And so at the 23rd would be when we would have public comment,
looks as
or?
good.
We'll see what else is on our agenda. We have been informed that
Sense of
we,
getting water,
Gordon
shoes.
Conwell may be coming back into the picture, and we know
I just
we
was
have
trying to
the
figure
master
out how we
plan.
communicate.
So, we'll
In the event.
have an agenda. We'll
Okay.
post the agenda.
But, yeah, I was just thinking it'd be helpful for the public to know that this was gonna be the night that.
Next weekend is next meeting is stormwater management, for sure. And then we'll see how that unfolds. But I imagine it will take, at least 45 minutes to an hour to go through that.
So probably not the next meeting would
The
be
one
public
following,
comment. It'll
the
probably be
one
after that.
following, more likely would be
Okay.
the one devoted almost entirely to public input.
Electric pipes
So
or-
that's how I envision this
So
unfolding.
that would be in February.
Early
February.
February,
Yeah.
the first meeting in February,
That would be February the 6th.
right.
I wonder if we could do that at the library.
Right. We may move to the library where we have less technical problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to move to.
Well, hopefully.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you, Mr. Houston, good night.
Be careful going home.
Okay. So, I have, and I think the planning board has been informed that the select board is viewing the form-based code favorably. And so I think that what we wanted to accomplish tonight is just to give the planning board a basis for evaluating the scope of work that we will be providing to the select board so that the RFP can be generated with the typical boilerplate, and we can get the project rolling. So I know that Emil and Jonathan have conferred a bit on this, and I'll turn it over to Emil initially because he is the Hamilton form-based code guru. We're lucky to have
Got a
him.
hat here somewhere. Thank you. We thought it would be useful to have the workshop, and again, as Marty said, the important thing is for us to kind of take this RFP to near conclusion so the board can vote on it one way or another. So the purpose of this meeting is to, through a workshop, try to get to have a better understanding of what it is that the scope of services will be required for a consultant if that person were to come to town and be hired to work with the community to develop a form-based code in the downtown area. Again, we think it's important that there be a good understanding of, again, we've had a lot of experience with the Gordon Conwell at this stage, but also how in a downtown area, working with an existing area that is identifiable by everybody here in terms of how it functions and what it looks like and so forth, the character that it has, to kind of work at seeing how a consultant would be useful coming to town. I know that, well, I'm going to let Jonathan sort of launch into this, but we did work together on this a little bit. So Jonathan, you want to start?
Sure,
Wait,
yeah.
I'll just interrupt one moment, but both Patrick and I were speaking with Kristen Kasner this morning, who's our representative in the State House, and Sean Farrell was also on the call, and we were urging her to reach out to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities to really to lobby to extend the timeline for the 3A law that really, right now pursuant to the guidelines, has to be considered by the town at town meeting before the end of this year. And so the thinking is that the town is, Patrick, you correct me if I'm wrong, close to compliant with 3A already, just because of the existing density in the downtown with single-family homes. So John Witten is been engaged to help in that process, but we would like to merge it with the form-based code to retain the character of the town and to have development that produces a cohesive code for the downtown and is more likely to succeed at town meeting than an attempt to sell the 3A law to the public, which the consensus was that would be quite difficult in a vacuum. It has to be in a larger, better context. Is that close
That's
to?
accurate.
Accurate. So Kristen, indicated that she's, receiving calls from other town planners and planning boards about this law and its effect on these smaller communities. So maybe with her efforts, we can get the Commonwealth to address, address the issues in a more cogent way than to keep up with the one-size-fits-all approach that they've adopted so far. So, Jonathan.
So, in any event, I thought it would be useful to pick up on a couple of comments and questions that were made in previous meetings and let those inform the RFP process and also the process, should it go forward with the form-based code. And sort of the two really fundamental questions were, why are we doing this RFP? What are we trying to accomplish? How do we align goals? And that was a good question from Pat Norton. And then Bill Wheaton had an additional question, which is, given that the town is divided by tracks east and west and north and south divided north and south by different separate clusters of more dense buildings separated by residential, so there's very little cohesiveness and there's very little connection in the downtown, and also very little infrastructure to support a lot of expansion, missing sanitary sewage treatment. What can we do, if anything, to improve matters? What are the opportunities here? And those, I think, are two really great questions. And it would be worth the board having a little bit better understanding of what that means before we put out an RFP, before we interview consultants, so we know why are we doing this, what's possible, what's the purpose of this. And I think that would kind of get at the gist of both of those questions and comments and get us in better alignment on this, writing the RFP again, evaluating the RFP, and evaluating any consultants that come forward. And then we're going to be asked to be an interface with these consultants, not the only interface, but an interface with these consultants. And the more we are informed as to what the challenges and opportunities are, the more productive I think this process will be. So in the interest of answering those questions, what I thought would be nice to do is a workshop similar to what we did with Gordon Conwell, which is to lay out a map, get out of our seats, stand around the map, and kind of ask ourselves and answer a few questions that were actually brought up in one of Emil's last slideshows around the term of soft sites, and I have a handout here. Basically, soft sites are sites that are, in a sense, underutilized. So there's one for, just hand those around. And then the other piece is Patrick sent out a little document, this Hamilton Downtown District, a confluence of needs, requirements, and opportunities. So to use these two documents as kind of guiding principles to, yes, you have that. So, but if you want to have it separate and mark it up or whatever you'd like. So yes, you already have, it was sent out, it's also in your package, and there it is again. So what I'd like to do is, if we could get a table out here somehow and then lay out a map, we could, like I say, get up and take a quick look at the map and talk about a few of these questions. If that's, I know, with everybody.
Can we use this table?
Sure.
On the end?
Yep.
So we can stay on this side of the table, maybe you can work on that side? Sure. Jonathan, did you bring any tracing paper?
Oh, I did not.
I forgot.
Oh, no, I might have some in my bag, hold on.
Yeah.
Here you go. That's a Post-its.
While he's getting ready, let me just comment. We just took a Google map here in the background, did an inset that aligns with the roads here as close as we could get it, in a black and white format. The red lines indicate what we were thinking to be the town center perimeter or delineation.
Well, here's the railroad station right here, the yellow star. And then this is the half-mile radius here, so you can sort of see where the MBTA mandate kind of lands in relationship to things. So this is a combination of a lot line map, and then for reference, I think I have one that shows the rest of, there should be one with the rest, I guess it doesn't matter that much. Doesn't matter that much, you can sort of see through Patton Park here. So, in any event, just to get you oriented, there's Patton Park, there's the Winthrop School, here's the Public Safety Building, the Council on Aging, the Community House, and then coming down here, just for reference, here's Crosby's, the Crosby's Marketplace, and then the intersection with, there is, let me just find the other map. I think this was corrected here with Cumberland Farms.
Yeah, that was the old building, I guess.
Hold on, I put up the maps here.
Current.
The shopping center, that's in Hamilton, isn't it?
Except this back portion right here. Back
Okay,
of
here it is.
CBS.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
See,
yes.
part of
No,
CBS.
I see now.
Across the line.
Yeah,
The station
Yeah,
is
yeah.
just on the Wenham side.
yeah.
This is better.
We should be an adjacent community.
I tried that, I did.
Didn't work.
There we go. That's the one I wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
You changed that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably still be 750, like Georgetown, right?
Here. Okay, yeah, that has come Farms more accurately drawn, because that map was prior to Cumberland Farms being built.
Are you looking at a map that shows the existing zoning downtown zone?
Do we,
Is there a reason we're focusing on this area?
Figure out what we want to do and then
yeah,
think about what.
the key thing to remember here is that we're not trying to design anything at this meeting. We're here to look at the sites and think about some of the soft sites that might be in town. The soft sites are those that maybe are not, they're underutilized, as Jonathan was saying, or
Yeah, so a great example is if you start, for example, along here, like, look at here's Cumberland Farms here. And this is the property bounds of Cumberland Farms. So there's really nothing going on back there. Same with these sites here. There's enormous amounts of land area here behind these buildings where really nothing's happening. Even out on these edges, there's nothing happening here. There's the entrance to Railroad Avenue. There's a little empty pocket there. You can start to go around and look at those things. We're sort of jumping ahead. But soft sites are examples of things that are kind of underutilized. And the idea isn't that you go in and you change those things, but the idea would be to, in the form-based code, allow, if somebody were to develop that property, allow a little bit more intensive use so that you're not wasting space, you're not leaving real estate on the table that could contribute to the vitality of downtown. So did you want to add something to that?
It really is amazing. Ground zero is the center of town. There's a railroad crossing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And you have retail here, you have sort of, for want of better words, a little bit of industrial over here. And all the public area uses are here, and then the public open space. But it's just like such a disaster.
Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that. So what could be a useful first exercise is, with analyzing soft sites, is to first figure out sort of which buildings kind of lend character to the downtown district that you would like to preserve, you think are valuable to the character and sort of texture of the fabric of the downtown, and make sure that you've identified those, and then look at areas around them and see where there's quite a nice soft sites where things have not been utilized very well. Another perfect example is around the public safety building. I think there's a raised septic area here, there's a little bit of parking area here, and then there's a bunch of sort of leftover space right here. And then there's this funny wedge back here, like if the Winthrop School did come into play, you've got a little funny leftover space here, and you've got this funny little corner back here, you combine them, and you've got a lot. So it's looking at those sort of, oftentimes things are built out without necessarily planning, they just happen. Incremental change happens. And often things are not looked at holistically, they're not looked at across lot lines, they're not looked at in terms of long-term opportunities. It's just literally a dormer at a time, a porch at a time.
It's more predicated on property boundaries.
Yeah.
And ownership.
Yeah.
As opposed to vitality
history.
or opportunity or.
Yeah. So we'll get to that, but what would be useful to do first is to kind of go through, like, I'll give an example of a thought of a building that
Could I
might.
just ask one
Sure.
question on this? Because I think it's important. The town owns all of this property,
Yes.
right?
That's correct.
Yes.
So the town actually,
Property too.
oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
if you actually combined all of this,
Yeah,
it's
well,
a
even,
huge space.
look at this space.
Oh,
Look
yeah,
at the-
but all of it.
Look at this space here.
Oh, yeah.
This space does nothing. So,
Right.
we'll get to that.
Yeah,
So
okay.
let's.
I mean, that's the thought that occurred to me. It is, 1900 residential neighborhood. If you were designing it from scratch, you'd say, why don't we just make this whole side retail and let the neighborhoods fill in over here? Not that you could do
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through the exercise, and I think that it'll kind of show us patterns, it'll kind of tell a story if we go through the exercise. So what would be useful is to go through first and identify what buildings or sites are kind of quintessential downtown Hampton. What would, you know, a site that you wouldn't want to change because it's an anchor point.
Or it's a character establishing building. You know,
Yeah.
some buildings in town, you know, like maybe this, the community center.
Can I do that? Can I color that in?
Would be a
Community
building,
center.
with a building that, should be one that have, because they're gonna, the designer will ask the question, what do you treasure here in the downtown area? Are there any buildings, are there any locations, places that you really treasure?
So you disagree with the community center?
It's not that it's a.
Park.
Well,
That's a centerpiece of the
Great,
park.
okay.
Everybody, every
Yeah.
time I drive through there with a friend who's never been here before, the first thing they say, they sort of turn away when they look in the shopping center.
Well,
But they get in
I'll-
the park and they say, ah, what a lovely park.
Okay, well, I'll hatch that in, okay? So the park is a very special
Can't raise any
character.
taxes with the park, can't do nothing. Play in them.
So very, very much a character defining space. Perfect. Okay. So, what else?
Well, a lot of people like, and I'm not one of them, but the Council on Aging building.
Okay.
That's, you know,
That's something you wanna keep.
with some history.
Well-
No, this is a starting point, Bill, because what, no, if I could start all over again, I would do that,
Yes.
but, you know, we're not gonna do that. But I'll tell you what just my observations in talking with people, they like this small, you know, this set of buildings, 1, 2, 3. They're all former residential buildings, tight to the road. They're kind of neat buildings. They're not,
Yeah.
again, we're not talking about first-class architecture here in town. We don't have any. But buildings that are building blocks maybe for the downtown area. If you were to look at a building, say, not replicate it, but that's one that has a character that we'd like to see
Have a
more
similar
of.
setback, so similar rhythm,
Yeah, and
there's
you
sort
can-
of a flavor.
You can see
Yeah.
this, that they have the same setbacks.
Yeah.
On the other side, it's a
So-
mess.
Okay, so can I color these in?
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're gonna color the gas station in on the?
No, I'm not. Because it doesn't honor the corner, and this is a canopy here, and this is
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
And it doesn't honor the entrance to this and has no relation to that, so I'm not coloring it in. If somebody else wants to argue with that, I'm open to argument.
And that's another gas station right here.
Yep.
That's
So
a
that's
canopy.
that's a canopy, sorry, let's see, let me get my eraser.
I mean, it's amazing, you know, Wenham has a
Yeah.
dozen buildings that you'd say, these are.
They're handsome buildings. They
historic, they're
really,
beautiful, they
yeah.
characterize the
They
downtown.
really,
And you
Well-
can't find a one here.
you
Well,
can't
we
find
can,
one.
we'll find what we can find.
You're right.
We'll find what we can
What you
find.
do to them.
I mean, that Railroad Avenue is,
Yeah.
it is a downtown road. It's just got
It's a
crappy businesses in it.
Yeah.
But if they had nice shops, that's a nice area for
And I think that will
commercial.
change once you
Yeah.
get a certain critical mass of other businesses in the downtown. You need
I
that,
love that there's a post office. That's, when they do the,
Yeah.
town days,
yeah.
and that street's activated,
Yeah.
it's cool.
Okay.
It's that critical mass of vitality.
That's what we're trying to build.
Really makes the difference. of
Exactly, yeah.
A living, desirable downtown that
Yeah.
you want.
I'd even go across the street and turn the corner and build those. And then,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Here,
Yeah, the weather vane and then
here,
And then also turn the corner. on
where the
Willow
old
Street.
barber shop was, the general store.
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
that's a quick patch.
Leave out the post office.
yep. Post office is sort of, it's a little bit of a mess
Yeah.
out
You
there.
know, the post office
Here.
is a mess, but it could actually work if you had like a little courtyard
There,
This
to
one's pretty-
create the
this
it
setback.
is, that's right, but
Yep, this corner is, I feel very
Right.
strong,
Yeah.
that's an important one.
it's not one of the treasured things anyway.
No,
in your-
but it-
Well, no, I'm saying that is, yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
I mean, actually, I don't even mind this. This is kind of a neat
Right.
complex there.
This is a neat area with also crappy
Yeah.
businesses in it.
And the circulation is horrible, and the use of land where they just pave right up to the building, like,
Right.
But functional,
yeah,
if you're
add to the downtown. This is that downtown here.
I've
but it's
seen,
just not-
I've seen old photographs shot down this railroad with that building and the railroad in the distance. It really is a neat throwback.
I mean, if you're, Jonathan, you do this already, like in Cohasset, all these businesses are along here.
Yeah.
The parking's behind. Right?
Ah, there you go. That's why we're not gonna color.
You're jumping ahead.
That's why we're not gonna color the cross streets.
But, but you're gonna color this, babe, I mean, this is like,
Yeah, we'll
this
get to that.
area.
We'll
Yeah.
get-
This
We'll do
building
buildings
here-
first. We'll do buildings first.
were
Where
designing
where the
that.
liquor store is, this building that shows up in all the historic
Yes.
photos.
Yeah,
But
that's,
it does turn its side and back to the town.
Yes, it
so
does,
there's-
but-
So there's opportunities, but we'll say, yes, we'll
I mean,
color that in.
it actually is historic. It's
Yeah.
been there that whole time.
Yep.
I would take the controversial position to say, the fact that this school is connected, has the opportunity to be connected to a park and a community center where after-school activities are being hosted and everything, this, to me, the building is not at all, is like something to preserve. But the fact that it's a school and the location that it's in, to me, in the proximity to all these neighborhoods, who walk to it.
Well, you're jumping ahead, but another process is to go through connections, so we'll jump ahead and do that. So what I'm gonna say is the connection between this and whatever happens over here, wonderful opportunity. So we'll say there's a potential connection there.
An island amongst.
So do you want, have we missed any sort of major buildings that are part of the character here?
yeah,
This
well,
one here,
we
just
haven't
to
done
finish that off.
We haven't done anything on, these are residential buildings along Cummings, so those are a discussion in and of itself. But I think these are this brick building, I'm not sure what that's used for.
That's the Verizon.
It's Verizon building.
Yeah, so it turns its back on
Yeah, it doesn't, not really
the character.
a character. It's
The thing that's
This
unfortunate
one
is.
this one is sort of a character.
Yeah.
That's the house too.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. That's well, that is a retail, yes,
Yep.
you're right.
My girlfriend works there.
If,
Her aunt owns it, you know.
These are unfortunate. The
Yeah.
Dodge Tree and
Yeah.
all those dudes back there. I like the Dodge Tree folks. I wouldn't speak badly
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But for downtown,
But it's not a
To occupy
awesome
your
spot for a
downtown
lumberjack.
site?
I mean,
no,
what's
I'm
it,
sure they
Iron
don't
Tree
want
are
to
out
be, they
behind,
don't want to be there either.
whatever.
Yeah,
You don't want that kind of stuff in downtown.
no. So that's
They got
right.
trucks
that's-
going in and out every morning and coming home.
Yeah.
So,
The other ones, the only other, excuse me.
Go ahead, yeah.
These two, I think, are kind of neat buildings to me, anyway. This is the Honeycomb, but I wouldn't, that's a new building.
yeah,
But
and
these are.
it's kind of in an odd position, it's
odd.
sort of a backyard position.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And I don't know about this thing, but,
Yeah, where's the,
I thought,
where's
isn't that where
Honeycomb?
Hungry Fox used to be in that building?
Yeah, yeah,
oh, really?
yeah.
you
Okay.
just call that
Bank, bank.
Honeycomb and Peacock and
Honeycomb
those
used to
places?
be, Hungry Fox, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so any other significant sort of character defining buildings that would be special to honor or
No?
riff off of or? Okay, so then, what we could do next is go around, again, using the soft site idea and look at the areas that are pretty noticeably underutilized and mark those out. So we had mentioned a couple right out of the gate. So for example, all around here, this whole corner is really underutilized. So I would say this whole site here is underutilized, especially in the back here.
Is that yellow?
Yep. Can you see that? Anybody like colorblind that can't see anything?
I see it now.
Okay. Darker.
That high pressure gas line goes through there.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's along here, so, but doesn't go through there.
Well, all this is underutilized, I mean, geez.
I would argue not.
Well, no,
Well-
but I mean.
It's undersized, it's over capacity.
Well,
We need more.
We
No,
could,
but I
we
mean,
could
I-
even,
Yeah.
I
we
mean,
could even,
even if you left the school here, you have all this other space.
Yeah, I was gonna
What's
say,
behind the school? Does it,
Baseball field.
This is.
yeah, so they have,
Playgrounds.
that's what I thought.
So.
So there's stuff back there.
Yeah.
Field.
Shall I?
I mean, if you're gonna keep that as a schoolyard, it's school.
Well, you know, the thing.
It's not over, there's not a lot of space.
The
No,
que-
there isn't.
We're not determining whether this is
No
going to
decisions here.
stay or
It's
go.
potential.
But if,
Potential is
you know,
data.
the decision is made, you know, and how that will happen and when that will happen is not something I am intimately familiar with. But assuming, for the sake of argument, the choice is the cover school versus this one, this then will be underutilized. I mean, if it remains, then that's another story. But, I mean, just on the assumption that it becomes surplus, either sooner or later, this, you would have to say is underutilized, would you?
yeah, I mean, again, we can even take that off,
Certainly
we can
this
even take
back
that off the
room,
table right now.
Even the
not
back part
consider it,
here.
Because that's a decision that, whatever happens to that property, you can really do something with it from an
Well,
economic
let's
development,
just
or
stay
leave
on-
it as school, but if you just wanna leave, you know, consider the rest of the downtown at this stage,
We can just.
so we don't get into,
Right.
So there's
Yeah,
a
but you don't
tremendous
wanna,
area.
you know, you could be creating a secondary sub-center in a town, commercial sub-center, in a town that's barely struggling with one sub-center. If you do this up here, if you say, all right, we're getting rid of the school, let's make some complicated mixed-use retail development, then you've got two poles here.
right.
And no,
Well,
I mean, then that
that's part-
just
that's
makes
part of
this
this exercise.
situation worse. There's no
But no, it-
center, there's no nothing.
We could
It's a
actually,
sprawl.
we could actually tell a consultant, though,
Yes.
that,
Connections.
yeah, we could actually tell a consultant, there are two things you need to solve here. If this were to stay a school, how would you develop the rest of the town? Or in the event that does become available for economic development, how would that fit into the rest of the community? So we can actually have them look at two scenarios there as part of this charge.
So again, we're not
Before
coming up with
making-
an answer, we're coming up
Yeah.
with questions and the opportunities.
Yeah, but again, we're
No
not,
decisions
not
today.
trying to decide anything as a design.
How do we bury the railroad?
Well, there's another way to do
The
that.
small
So we'll get to that when we get to
The small
connections.
thing.
We'll talk about that. Okay, so can I color in
There's
front of
water
this public
for-
safety building here so there's just sort of a soft site, nothing's happening, that's just grass there.
Parking, well, and then they
No,
park,
there's not
oh,
parking, that's just useless grass.
isn't there parking in front of the building?
Yes,
There is.
here,
Oh, right
not there.
there, oh, okay, gotcha.
There's nothing there. So, we've talked about, Pat Norton just said, what about along here? Really, almost nobody parks in there. There's kind of a useless little green space there that doesn't do anything. And it's kind of the terminus of Railroad Avenue here. So, may I color in an area along here? or-
Yeah, that's, I agree with that.
Oh, that's the
Ready to
parking
get
at
rid of that
Crosby's,
beautiful
yeah.
retail development there?
We're not getting rid of anything, we're just saying
No.
that's a soft site. It's underutilized, no decisions. I would
Let me just say
it's
one thing, Bill, this is, you're looking out 30 years on coming up with a
50
plan.
years.
Or 50 years, so the idea is to come up with a plan, if it were to change, how would it be done so that it connects?
Well, the problem with the town.
Everything is on the table for
Problem with the town is
change.
every 20 years, somebody comes along with an idea.
You can always
We're gonna
change
do it
the,
here, do it there, fix up this, and the result is a, half-mile mishmash
the,
with a railroad in the
But a
middle.
form-based code would manage that mishmash and turn
But-
it into.
yeah, but the problem with the current coding is that the guy who owns this property wants to sell it, okay, how do I renovate this now?
Right.
He doesn't care about this, and
Totally
this.
peaceful.
So if everything's on the table, you come up with a plan that is an idealized plan, and then get buy-in in the town, then that becomes a master plan to be developed over time. And it can be changed over time as well,
And
so that's,
it will happen one log at a time, but with intention instead of
Yeah.
accidentally.
Continuity.
Yeah.
I also don't think there's enough demand for two centers. If you build if you build something like the Selectmen thing, it was a beautiful retail area, lots of money and so on, basically this area will revert back to what the rest of it had.
What if it
That's
was,
all.
what if it was housing instead?
housing would.
Yeah, because whatever we do, we have to factor
housing with a connection to the most important piece of real estate in town. Pretty awesome. Okay, so again, no decisions, just, this is just sort of reading, we're reading the map.
Back here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we could burn that down?
You're being
I don't know,
recorded,
if Chris
Bill.
wants out, he's tired of this, but he might fire it on his own.
Oh, well, the old, well, Hanson's, it's now the oil company, but it used to be a hardware store.
Hansberry's, yeah.
Yeah, that was a funky store.
So this building isn't on the list here. It's not, that is a, I don't know.
So repair, auto repair, something?
No, this,
Yeah.
that's the other side of the track.
Yeah, should we
What
put
is
this
that
in there?
I
building?
would, yeah, I would say that.
Oh, is that
It's the
that's the
medical
medical
center.
building
Yeah.
behind
Yeah,
the
it's the medical.
communities? I'm like, yeah.
It's not a particularly.
No, I was just trying to get my head, I'm like, what
Yeah.
is that building?
Yeah, what's on the other side of Little Street there?
That's the condos.
Yeah,
Those
condos, and they
condos.
sort of turn, what's nice is they turn themselves inward, it's like a courtyard with a lot of vegetation and fencing here, so whatever happens here, these things sort of turn their back on that. And
Very
so-
private.
Yeah, and it's a really nice way to have almost incompatible uses be compatible in that area, if you go stand there and look at it, imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some other underutilized areas? So may I do even just?
Yeah, I think that area, just as a.
Should I not go into the
Well,
Windsor
go
School
ahead,
District?
I mean, 'cause.
I think this area
that's an
also
extension.
behind, these buildings are gonna be on the road, but this area behind it, it could be a back building, it could be parking in here, it could be something else.
What
That-
is,
all the
what
way
is
back
this? McLeyland, what is that? That's not a road, is it?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. There, it
What is this?
says street, ST. Was there a street there, Patrick?
I don't know.
Look it up.
That came off the assessor's map, I think, this.
Maybe it's a paper road there, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, Carriage Lane is there.
Carriage Lane.
Yeah, that's
ends.
there.
So that's, we could jump to that one if you want, that question.
So any other underutilized areas? And I'm sure there's others that we're not thinking of yet, but, I kind of think that back here is also underutilized.
Right.
We just gave them a permit to do this shed. Well, if that shed had instead maybe given back to this loop in here, you could have the honeycomb and the little business over here. So maybe in the future, we let something like that happen instead of forcing them then to make that only storage and they're not allowed to do anything else that came up before the planning board just recently. One-ways code would allow something different to happen, a different vision. So, what else?
I think these buildings are, to me, questionable. This isn't, there is a bigger building there now, right? This is where that high-rise building is, not high-rise, but it's there is a larger block here of building. But having driven back here, there is a lot of parking back here. but
Right.
For what?
Well, I think for
Should I
that
extend this all
Willowdale
the way over
building.
Yeah,
to here?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, to the residential.
Well, it's quite a bit of yellow already, and we haven't even touched the middle school.
Mhm.
So, should we move on to,
Yes, and it's 9:00, so.
connections?
Yeah, let's
Okay,
do.
everybody have bandwidth to
Well,
continue, or do we
One,
want to?
one other, how about talk about the residential
Sure,
components
oh
of
yeah, let's do that,
downtown?
yes,
You know, that would
do
be-
that. You want to introduce that?
As Bill just pointed out, isn't there a road here with houses? There is, that's Carriage Lane right here. That's a house there. That might be a business, I'm not sure. But these are all single-family houses, cul-de-sac there. This Cummings is a cul-de-sac here. So you have residential units that side, right next to the major shopping in Hamilton right now.
And then denser, sort of mixed-use sort of things over here, and the
So-
same here.
In And looking long-term then, is it, you think it's right that that stays residential?
This is not the major shopping. If you look at cars per hour, whatever metric you use, major shopping is that.
I agree in volume, but people will identify Railroad as the downtown, I think.
Oh, without question.
You wouldn't call, that's a strip center.
Yeah.
They're the busiest, yeah.
Better than when I moved in.
Basically for the lack of any other.
Yeah, yeah.
So the idea would be if you can fill in some of the underutilized spaces, it strengthens something like this, and we'll go down there. So
Yeah,
we'll
you
get
could.
to a little story that I'll tell about Railroad Avenue in a few minutes, but did you want to segue then into?
No, go ahead on
On the residential.
I think looking out 30 years, is it sensible if they stay single-family houses, right in our downtown area? We're kind of looking for spaces, and, I would kind of make the argument, it's hard to keep those as single-family. Now, I know there are people who live there.
The people who like Brian, who lived on that street, said, all the people in this area
Yeah,
don't want apartments, they don't want stores, they love their little neighborhoods, they love the fact that they can, talk to the person. It's that dense single family
Yeah.
that they find very attractive.
yeah. And they've got,
Don't destroy that.
they've got all of this, and, which we're not gonna change at all, but
So
with.
the question is with
within-
these islands here, like Patrick, long ago and far away, when, a couple years ago, was looking at the downtown, and the question was, with that little island of single family, should that stay single family? Should it morph into something a little denser, residential? What should it be? So if we pose it more as a question than a decision, just as Patrick did, that's an opportunity or an island or a question in a bigger context of things. A consultant could talk to us about all the different things that could happen there. In other words, if you kept it, what would its relationship be to the rest of the things? If you changed it a little bit, what would that little change be? If you changed it a lot, what would that be? And again, all of these things, as folks age out of these areas, and again, we're not talking about tomorrow, we're talking about when somebody is no longer, wants to be here and they want to sell that property, if it's more valuable as a.
This makes sense to me, particularly if this is some type of right-of-way, because then you can actually have access. This street here, well, I get your point, it's dead end. And for commercial, it's a dead end, so if you want to drive down here and park.
But could it be,
Yeah,
could it be
yeah,
denser residential?
Oh, denser
You don't wanna
residential.
put residential here.
No.
The teacups are gonna rattle off the
Yeah.
shelf.
This
But
is
could
gonna
these be-
stay.
Well, you're that close.
Could this be denser residentials? So why don't, how
Oh,
about if
yeah,
we do it?
this makes more sense to me, this not so much.
How
'cause
about
it's
if we
dead
just
end.
circle those little islands as questions? They're little islands that have questions surrounding them of, should they stay exactly as they are? Should they change a little tiny bit? Should they change a lot? What should they become? It's a question that the consultant can look at. So could I put a color around that, and just so we can sort of feel those two islands?
Yeah.
I guess it's good to keep in mind,
It's
for the
just
sake
an
of what?
idea.
For the sake of what is the benefit of looking at it? What is the benefit we're providing the town by going through this effort? to identify these
Well,
points?
we're looking, the task is to look at everything in this red line and see if we can get it past hodgepodge into something that's more cohesive, that preserves what's special about Hamilton. We've sort of pointed to kind of the things in discussion.
Is that radius of 500 foot?
This is the half-mile radius.
Half mile.
This is the train station. So all of this area is subject to the MBTA
Yeah, the 3A,
process.
yeah. So
And then
identifying it as potentially more denser
addresses-
isn't the worst idea.
It addresses the MBTA, and you could say no, but it's a question. It's a question to be
Is the
contemplated.
MBTA still on the list of, do we just have a conversation about taking that off the list of
Oh, no.
concerns?
Oh, no, it's very much a concern.
Oh, it's an 800-pound gorilla.
It's
So-
really, it's driving the bus to some extent, until there's more clarity about the implications implications of that law, because I don't know if you recall what John Wooden said, but the law in and of itself is quite simple. You're supposed to have
A dense area.
a dense area
in a-
within half a mile of a
But it
train
doesn't have
station.
all the metrics. It's the EOLHC or
So
whatever.
they have issued guidelines, but guidelines do not have this,
It's a very expensive way
they're
of
not
trying to
the
increase
same as
MBTA ridership.
regulations.
Well, then I was thinking about it today, then it adds, because we can't put any, we can't require affordable housing in that. Now, if we had 731 new units, now we need 73 more affordable housing units in Hamilton to, for us, you know, for whatever, that's 10%. So it's,
There are a lot of issues with respect to that.
yeah.
So we're not answering any questions
Yeah.
tonight, we're just looking at the pieces and
Yeah.
how they relate to each other. So,
No, we're trying to get a sense of what the planning board feels, what's important, what do you want to preserve, what do you want to change for something better? What do you want to completely change because it's not working at all? Where are the special places within downtown that you want to preserve? You don't know why you like it, but it's just a place you like to go, or you send people, because maybe that could be duplicated somewhere else.
I still agree with Patrick. I think the school area connects with the park in some way. It's just a
Well, for the
wonderful public
families,
area.
I think.
What?
For the families there, because you got the community house with the after-school care, and you got the park.
so that sort of segues into connections. Should we do connections a little bit? So there's
I
a.
connected across the street, not down to the train station.
Say it again.
I connected across the street.
This.
Right.
Yes, agreed. So, you know, and that can be strengthened, it could be made safe, it could be, you could drive down here and actually see a vision, you know, if you're driving through, you know, a place, a park, a gateway, a threshold, you know, welcome to downtown Hamilton, there could be something there, but there's a really strong connection, sense as you drive through, if whatever the speed limit is there, 40 miles an hour or something crazy.
Well,
Go ahead.
what, the limitation of having all these properties along here is curb cuts. If you could, and one of the pitfalls in a small town is you get so many damn curb cuts along a road like 1A, that people are constantly coming in and out, and so Marty actually hit it on the head. You know, what if there's a parallel road back here somewhere, so that you can connect to the back of some of these buildings, or if there's a building here, one on the back, you can go to a parking area.
If you were trying
So
to
you're-
turn it into a Victorian town or an 1880 town or anything like that, you do what Patrick said, is you try and have, you know, buildings of that style front on the roads with all the parking in the back.
Yeah.
That's what Lexington has
that's
done,
the
a
more,
lot of
yeah.
places they have everything fronted on the street, and the park, and then you'd have to have, you know, you flip this around 180 degrees, and
Yeah.
you'd front things here, and you'd be
Exactly,
able
yeah.
to have little areas come
Hide
back
the
over here
parking.
and parking.
Yep,
Hide the
yeah,
park.
yeah.
To that
can be done
point,
incrementally.
I
You
know
could design that.
there's
One at a
a
time.
former chair of the planning board who lived, or probably still lives on Tally Ho. He used to walk every
Yeah.
day to the train station.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, that points out there are a lot of, you know, neighborhoods here and little enclaves that, you know, deserve connections to
Yeah.
retail, to services, to the train, to schools, institutions.
So.
Yeah, or even if you drive there, you park once and then walk everywhere, rather than park
Right.
here, park
Right.
there, park.
Right.
So another connection that's kind of invisible right now, is this lines up with a pedestrian passage across the railroad tracks and leads right over to the canopy at Crosby's. But to tell you two quick stories, my wife, when we moved to Hamilton, for 5 years, she drove through this intersection and never saw Railroad Avenue, didn't know it existed. Because there's nothing to signify that it's there as you drive through. So
Yeah, it's a
problem.
pretty thin little road, you
It's a
can
problem.
drive right by it.
That's a problem. Another story. My employees parked here to use one of these businesses, saw, what is this, CVS over here?
CVS.
Saw CVS, wanted to go there, but couldn't figure out how to do it from standing here. It was just too much visual chaos. She didn't know what to do. So she got in her car and she drove to North Beverly. So whatever business she was gonna give them, she gave it to North Beverly. Why? Because she couldn't see the connection across there.
Because it's difficult.
Yes. So.
You gotta
so
get in
let's-
your car,
so
wait for
let's-
the train,
so
make
let's-
3 left turns.
So let's draw.
Might as well
let's-
get on 1A and drive south.
So let's draw a line through there and say.
They were
Right.
Times Square.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and somebody said, wouldn't it be cool to put the railroad underground? Well, that was sort of the brilliance of Olmsted and Central Park, is he sort of, he switched the levels of the road system. Blue Road is at grade and the crossroads go under, so he separated the sort of pedestrian traffic from the through traffic. But what you could do here is you could connect some of this to this, at least with a pedestrian connection. I don't know what the MBTA says about the pedestrian crosswalks, but I bet you can buy.
Well,
dedicated ones.
there's one here.
Right,
there.
that's at grade crossing, but I don't know
At
whether
grade.
there's overhead crossings that can be done.
Tricky.
So, so anyway, that's a question. And then, right now, I think that there's really a lack of connection across, here we've got an important building. This connection across here is really very poor, and I think would be as important as this connection here. Right now, this connects to a mud pit, that connects to another mud pit, and this connects to a parking lot. Is that really the gateway to Patton Park, a mud pit and a parking lot? So, could we make a better connection across here and into this park? So, may I say, a question is, do we want to connect any of this through here? Do we want to leave that as a dead end? Is that a question? Is
Well,
that an
that's a
opportunity?
question, of course.
Yeah.
And I hate to be a squirrel, but it's 9:15.
Pause.
What else do we need to do with respect to this? Because,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can think about it, but there's other wonderful, interesting opportunities. Like, I gave a hint of one
no,
right now.
just,
My wife driving through, not knowing this, but not knowing there was railroad avenue here. Another is driving through here and, not realizing that there's a wonderful park there and whatever open spaces here. So that's sort of signifying, wayfinding, creating a threshold, creating a gateway, creating a sense that you've arrived at something. You've arrived at a cute little
if this were,
downtown
if this were
area.
a roundabout, it would be fabulous.
So, and then
That's to me.
if you do something like that, then the question is, can you come around the outsides of that, whatever that amenity is? Could you have something that sort of defines that on each of these corners? Now that you arrive into the space, could you arrive into something that felt like some sort of a town center? This being, experience of arriving somewhere. Could this be the experience of arriving somewhere?
I think if you plan something like a gateway going into and out of a town, whichever direction you're going, that's a nice statement to make, and it could be subtle, it could be, it could be a natural landscape, or it could be a structure of some sort. But the idea of a gateway is really that it's an announcement that you're going from one place to another, so you're going through that gateway. So however that can get done imaginatively, I think it could be useful.
There's many ways to do it.
Yeah.
It can be just matching an element, so the same two things are on both sides.
So that would be
Building
something like
setbacks are the
create
same.
a gateway,
Yes.
as part of a.
Oh, yeah.
So, but we can stop there, but there's other, so when you said what else can be done, we can continue with this, and you can start to see actually the beginnings of a story and potential here for a dialogue with a consultant and a vision session with the town and other boards.
I don't know if, somebody mentioned before to me, I think But the idea, if members can take this sheet,
And think about it.
think about it, and even write something down, send it to Patrick, and he can distribute it back to us, and,
I can also distribute this map electronically. I can distribute it in this marked up form and also a clean form. You can just scribble all over it and then you can worry about it. Would that be interesting and useful?
so the idea, we're trying to gather ideas now and things that people think about when they, what is the experience you have here, and how could that be improved?
You know, one thing you could do about the tram. Move the station.
Yeah, I wondered about how amenable they
Just
would be.
looking at this, I'm going,
Yeah.
you know, here, or
Exactly.
somewhere down here.
This is
so
a
it
real
doesn't-
interesting
So it
process.
shoots through here,
Yeah,
you know, in 2 seconds and doesn't,
I agree with you.
it doesn't
Whether they,
clog up everything.
the only issue here is
Move your
parking.
half-mile radius somewhere else.
Yeah, you move your problem.
Yes, exactly. You get to chase your problem further across
But if you
town.
moved
That's-
it back, if you moved it that way, it would
Into Wenham.
be a little, oh yeah, it would be one.
So would that be useful and interesting to folks to have a copy of what we scribbled on and also a clean copy? And you've already got this document, and you have this document.
Yep.
You know,
And you can just sort of look at them.
if you just moved it there, right, what do you have there? You have lots of potential parking, lots of, you know, because it's chunky use, and the train just parks there.
Yeah,
It
the-
allows traffic to go here, here, and here, until, or depending on the direction, and it shoots through town, it doesn't
Yeah.
park here.
The only advantage by putting it here is that Wenham has all the parking lot.
Yes. No,
So-
I'm-
so
I'm-
we're not-
that-
we're not-
that works in my mind too.
Yeah, that's the only advantage.
It's like if you go to North Beverly, right? They put the train
Yeah,
on one side,
Yeah.
they didn't park it across Dodge's Road.
yeah.
And the bus access to and from is very area consumptive.
Yeah.
And I think you end up having to devote a fairly significant amount of time to that can't be used for anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
And the T is so hyper protective
Yeah.
about trying to keep people out
Yeah.
of where they don't want them to be, where there's the potential for any conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we had I think everybody has an electronic version of this, right, a Word document. Maybe just edit it, if you make any comments on this.
Sure.
And then, Jonathan, if you want to send a map.
Yeah, I'll send, like I said, I'll send the markup one, and I'll send a clean one.
The markup copy there.
Yeah, and if you have any other ideas that you all want to share with us, I mean, I'm only, you know, kind of looking at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what we could do is we could just revisit this.
Yeah.
You know, just do a second installment.
Take out the
and
green.
add the rest of the,
I think it would be useful to have the benefit of some of the HDC thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have really focused
Yes, they
on,
have.
Yes.
on trying to accentuate that
That-
corner.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've gotten any traction
Yeah.
at all yet.
Yeah.
But I know they want to highlight that and see a lot of reasons why.
Let's see if we can't do a joint meeting with
Yeah.
the HTC, and we might have to do,
Yeah.
we might want to do just a separate meeting on this.
Yeah.
With the HTC, we'd have to do 3 meetings in
Well,
a month.
do we want to finish this exercise within the board and then meet with the HTC? Because we're not quite really finished with this. What if we put our input together?
Yeah.
And so we have a sense
Well,
of what the,
Yeah.
you know, what our-
Congeal your ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we meet with the
Yes.
HTC.
Okay,
and
we'll do
we can
this
then
at our next
intersect those.
We'll do this, we'll finish that at our next meeting and then schedule, we're gonna have to do an extra meeting with the HTC because
Yep.
I think Gordon Conwell is gonna land back in our lap. We have the master plan and, what else? Oh, wait, the athletic fields.
Yeah.
The only real project in front of us.
Well,
The only application in front of us.
Yeah.
yeah, well,
Well, maybe we can brief Rick on this, and he can go back to HTC, so they can do their homework on it, maybe.
yeah.
Or maybe they want to
Copy
meet.
and-
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, so, that the consensus probably is you're up at the next meeting.
I just sent the stuff anyway, so.
Right, and I haven't had a chance to review it, so, given the time.
We'll probably get input from Alex then too.
Yeah.
I have extra copies of the blank plans, if for some reason anybody wants one, to scribble on. Patrick, would you like one?
Sure.
Anybody else want one?
Oh,
Are we gonna,
yeah,
look at, are we gonna look at the minutes?
yes, we are.
Okay, perfect.
And you want one, Marty?
We should.
And again, I'll scan this and share it. with blank ones.
Have to do it this way. Okay.
Marty, we gonna do anything on the minutes?
Yes, so let's look at, we have,
May 3rd all the way up through December 19th.
right, and I can say that what happened with respect to these minutes is that Patrick sent me Word documents for these minutes. I edited them. So unless you see something that you need to have changed, they are in good shape.
Perfect. I didn't see anything. So I move that we accept the minutes for, May 30th, November 21st, December 5th, and December 19th.
I've got one change, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just,
All right.
it was, my name was left off the vote. This was the December 19th meeting. No, I guess it was the November 21. At the end, just before adjournment, due to the holidays in December, the board discussed the schedule. So there was a motion to cancel the meeting, and it says that the motion failed 3-4 with Jonathan, Marnie, Bill, and Rick voting opposed. I was at that meeting. I voted to oppose it, and I think there were 2 in favor of it.
It was 2
So it was
to
2 to 5.
I was with you, Pat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the
All
only, that's a minor change, but
No,
That's good.
anything else?
no.
Okay, so, do you want to amend your motion with that correction?
Yes, the correction that Emma just made. Yeah, so I move that we accept the minutes for May 30th, November 21st with the correction, December 5th and December 19th.
And do I have a second?
Second?
When I call your name, please indicate whether you assent to the motion. Pat Norton,
Norton, aye?
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton, aye.
Emil Dahlquist.
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Beth Herr,
Aye.
and Marty Crouch, aye. So we got that done, and so, did you have a chance to?
I sent out an email today to Patrick, but I don't know if he had a chance to look at it. Do you know if the person who is doing the minutes is working on any of the backlog minutes, or is she just doing the, because we got one for May, that was what made me think. I don't want to assign minutes to someone.
Right.
So I was going to assign 2022 minutes.
Couple of hours ago, after I saw your email, I forwarded it to her, Catherine Tinsley.
Yep.
She's sort of overseeing getting the minutes done
Great.
from our side, and she's got 2 recording secretaries working with her as
Okay.
their limited time allows. I asked her to coordinate with you.
Perfect.
So
And then I'll send
there's
out
not a
whatever-
duplication of
exactly.
whatever.
Perfect, perfect.
But what I was thinking is I probably would, I think we have enough minutes for everybody to do one set of minutes from 2022, because I think it's gonna be a while before she gets to 2022. So we'll start back at the beginning and then
right,
meet when they, yeah. Okay.
Right.
I just needed a game plan.
Okay,
And then I was thinking, there was a number of minutes that just needed a few corrections that you said that you were gonna look at grammatical corrections or something. But I can tell you which ones those are.
oh, okay, which ones are they?
I'll email them to you because it's easier for me to email than look at that. That might not even be my most recent spreadsheet on it, so.
Right, yeah.
I will
because-
send, so I was thinking of you just looking at the ones that, yeah.
Yeah,
Some of them we approved, but they needed like a few corrections on.
right, and if we can get the minutes as a Word document, it's just so much easier to make the correction in Word than to try and, send the correction, because you can't.
Oh, got it.
Because it's a PDF. So.
Right.
Boy, this is a long meeting. So I think I've reached the end of my
Perfect.
road.
I wanted to make it just a comment a little early. The room is empty now, but by discouraging public comment, we're discouraging people. I think there's a huge benefit, people coming to this meeting in person and being part of the dialogue, and I think it's unfortunate to not at least hear some of the participants come here with something to say. And
I
by
think-
telling them that there's no comment allowed
Oh, I didn't
during
say
this
that.
hearing or next, will discourage them from attending and being part of the conversation. They'll miss something along the way, and then we'll have to, I think we should revisit our decision, or your decision, to not allow public comment during
Well,
the next hearing.
I think, Pat, that the majority of people here today were in support of this project. And so they're not going to be commenting on the specifics of it, they just want it done fast. And that's why I made the comments that I did at the beginning of the meeting. I saw Ann Giroux here, she's in a butter, she's going to have issues. But most of the people here, I think, were people going, hurry up, planning board, and you've read the letters, the emails that
Yeah.
we've gotten. I think those were some of those people.
But regardless of what we think,
Right.
we can't assume, and they have to be allowed to talk.
Yeah, I think that having one meeting where everybody can say whatever they want within 3 or 4 minutes it's just a more efficient use of our time.
I
Because if-
disagree,
well,
because they're gonna miss something, and we'll have to revisit conversations we've had.
We're
And
not
it's,
gonna-
it's important to say that you can't repeat the same comment over and over again.
I don't think that we're gonna
visitors,
get a
but-
lot of comments on stormwater management. I mean, the questions that the planning board had were very specific. And I think the abutters are gonna have very specific comments, but I don't think the proponents of this project are gonna be questioning a lot of what's going on. They just want it to be done and done yesterday.
Well, I think if we had said up front that this is how we were gonna run it, I think people came, and so I think that can make it hard. But if we said, okay, we're gonna take comments at the end, because if I came to a meeting and I planned something, I think that's what Pat's saying. Somebody might have planned, I wanna talk tonight, and then they get here and they can't, that doesn't feel like.
Well, I think if,
That's why I asked at the end, when are people, like, what date do people, and I agree, now people might not come to the other meeting, but also, like, what date are they gonna be able to speak? Because
right,
they
but I
came for a
think,
reason.
I think what happened here is that if anybody was really aggrieved, they would have said something. And Angela was the person who's aggrieved. I'm serious, I just don't think that the people here were in opposition to this.
I'm not saying they were in opposition, but they may have wanted to say something, so.
Well, if you read the emails.
I did read all the emails.
I read all the emails, and I think.
I think it's, I love having participation. I mean, I think it's great people are speaking
Well,
up.
look at our agenda and it's not
I
full.
know, I
mean,
gotcha.
we can't give them all the time in the world. We just don't have that much time. Unless, of course, we want to meet every week. Raise your hand if you want to meet every week.
I
Because
just,
then we can listen to them all ad nauseum, ad infinitum.
I think it was
Well, I
just,
think you benefit by keeping comments to the end, because most often, the people gain clarity
yeah.
by sitting in the meeting, and they understand that we're not trying to sabotage the school fields or blow them up or do anything else.
We're not being sneaky.
And then at the end of the meeting, they quietly leave because one way or another, their question got answered. Whereas if we open it up and say, give everybody, 2 minutes, that's gonna be an extra half hour or an hour
Or more.
or more. We
I'm
can't-
just
I don't
saying they
think-
came with thinking, because at most meetings you can comment, I think people might have come, and so if we weren't planning on it, I think it would have just been good. That's why I wanted to clarify. I
Well,
think it's important to clarify.
I think Barney was right to say that the message that we received is you gotta expedite things, get it done quicker.
Right.
So we were trying to do that by,
I mean, I'm just saying, I saw
Dedicating the
people
time
over
we
here
had.
who I know are pro-fields,
Yeah.
who were rolling their eyes when they said we weren't gonna talk
Yeah.
about public comment. I'm just telling you what I saw in reaction, so even, it's just good that we're even saying this,
Plus-
that the reason why we're doing this is because they want it expedited.
plus then you have 20 people watching on
Almost
Zoom.
30.
And they're gonna wanna talk too.
Right.
So.
I'm
there
not
goes-
saying I
you know,
understand, I'm just
I think
saying.
it was the right thing to do because,
We're between a rock and a hard place.
because it could be, what's wrong with saying, wait till you hear all of the information, wait till you hear the planning board talk about the project a little bit, now tell us what you think, before we vote.
Right. No, I get,
think
I
that's the way to
totally
do
get
it.
that. I just
Most
think
of their
people may have.
questions will be answered in the regular meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, we,
Motion to adjourn.
do I have a second?
We don't need to vote, do we?
You know, the select board
And we
never
have to have a
goes
roll
through a
call?
roll call, but we'll do a roll call. Pat Norton,
Aye.
Jonathan Poor.
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton.
Bill Wheaton, aye?
Emil Dahlquist.
Emil Dalquist, aye.
Beth Her.
Aye.
Marnie Kretchup.